We have news in just now that the UK Prime Minister Rushi Sunak has just landed in Israel to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu. You've sort of had all the big players from our allies go there now. Is there any chance that we will send someone, or even the Prime Minister, do you think?
Potentially, I think the momentum or even the expectation is certainly mounting for world leaders to come together really for the cause of de-escalation, first and foremost, because the temperature is really heating up in the world, certainly here since what happened 10 days ago. And those were atrocious things. Nobody is denying that. But it's very quickly in the fog of war, it's possible for things to just sort of spiral a little bit out of control. And so I think that there's a unanimous agreement that we want to de-escalate as much as possible. And if that means more leaders showing up there to try and bring the temperature down, that's a good thing. I think the other part is standing with our close allies and standing against the barbarism that we saw, and for the principles of Israel kind of defending its own rights and fighting for its own sovereignty. I think that's another message that you see in this. But I think in all countries, Caleb, whether it's the US, whether it's the UK with Prime Minister Sunak there, whether if we go as well, just as the countries are getting more and more fragmented, where there's just more and more groups of people, because of a consequence, I think, of just the immigration experiment, frankly, that's taken place in the Western world over the last 50 years, you just do have to see this balance where people are navigating a very divided electorate, and it's very tricky, I think, for world leaders to show up there and say the right thing that resonates with all audiences.
Now let's talk about the cluster, and you can finish that word, that is the election of a new House Speaker over in the US. The Republican Party is still struggling to elect a Speaker, with the nominee Jim Jordan missing out again on the second ballot. So the House has now been without a Speaker for 2 weeks, which means in that time they've not been able to pass any bills, including ones, of course, that would give aid to Israel and Ukraine. How are they ever going to solve this?
Yes, I think the theme of this segment, the previous topic, and this one is this fragmentation, that word that I keep using, that's taking place everywhere. Even in the Republican Party, there's a long brewing civil war, really. It's more than fragmentation within the Republican Party. And it actually goes way back. People think about it right now in recent events and the effect maybe Trump had, or Matt Gaetz, who's sort of a populist, or he represents that Trump wing of the party. It goes way back to 2008 with the Tea Party. Then you had in 2014 Eric Cantor, who was the majority leader. He was primaried, which has never happened in the history of the Republic, and that was a shocking result. Then you had people like John Boehner and Paul Ryan, who basically resigned or decided not to run for re-election because they knew they didn't have the support. And all of those things build up to this moment that we're in now, where you've got the civil war, and there's one faction of the Republican Party really consolidated, I think, and sharpened with the election of Trump in 2016, even though he lost in 2020, where they're just not happy with the way Republicans are running Congress. And they have enough of a majority that they can really flex their muscle here, even if it's ugly, even if it's a cluster. As you said, they're just like, this is our moment to push this. We don't want unlimited funding. We don't want the open border. And so we're going to do what we can in the limited leverage that we have to really push that to a hilt. And I think that's what you're seeing, the sentiment among the Republican base, certainly, which is leading to this very fascinating and, yes, very messy dynamic that's taking place in the U.S. Congress.